Welcome back, Captain. How can I be of assistance? Certainly, Captain. I was hoping you would ask.
It was the law-forsaken parasites. I had become obsessed. My quest to stop them. To avenge my partner, Philip. And my ex-partner, Bernice. And Lieutenant Jurgen. And those two informants had brought me to Rizzo's distillery. But it wasn't just the triple distilled deliciousness of Rizzo's Spectrum brand vodka that I found there. It was death. I made sure the Brain Eaters paid the price. But at what cost to me? It's you.
This is the Halcyon News Network with breaking news. Halcyon Helen has been murdered. Administrator Ludovico of Rizzo's refused to answer the big question on everyone's mind. Who will Spectrum Vodka's next spokesperson be? Claiming that a special investigation must be concluded first.
Captain, we have a communication coming in from one Administrator Ludovico.
Get off the transmission, Cedric. We agreed to let me do the negotiating. Law be with you, friend. I am Administrator Ludovico of the famed Eridanos Atmospheric Complex. But there's no need to stand on formality. You may address me as Mr. Halcyon Helen is dead. Murdered. Her death is the tragedy of our lifetime. As the face of our new product line, her murder is a stain on the Rizzo's brand. She was scheduled to unveil our newest product, Spectrum Brown, before this tragic event. But we cannot move forward with our unveiling until we apprehend the killer. You can't be serious. Halcyon Helen, greatest cultural icon of our colony, Empress of the Aether Waves.
All right, Ludovico, that's enough. You don't know what you're doing. Let me handle this. Captain Hawthorne, Sublight's favorite freelancer. I'm such an admirer of your work. Cedric Kincannon, Sublight Underground. I'm so glad we're hiring a third-party investigator. No one wants to see a troop of UDL guards stomping all over my hotel. Least of all me. The murder of Halcyon Helen is a heinous assault on this colony. I look forward to watching you find the miscreant responsible and drag them out of the shadows. Two-bit actor. Oh, Captain. This isn't Spencer Woolrich we're talking about. This is Halcyon Helen, Princess of Periodicals, Duchess of Dramaturgy. You would not believe the money she made us on Dissident Busters.
For law's sake, Cedric, could you show a little discretion and not bring up your contraband operations in front of an outsider?
Ludovico, you wound me. I'm establishing rapport with our new contractor. Let's not give him the impression that you can't be trusted.
Do you really want to do this right now, Cedric? You want to antagonize me while I'm negotiating a contract? Because I promise you, I'll win.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Honest to law, how hard is it to hire a freelancer? Apologies, Mr. Ludovico. That was inappropriate of me. Captain, I'm Constable Maria Keene. Hiring a third-party investigator was my idea. I've been studying your dossier. You're reliable and competent. You've been taking care of yourself ever since you arrived on Halcyon, and you're entirely independent. As far as I'm concerned, you're the ideal inspector for this case. I hate to admit it, but I'm a little out of my depth here. I'm used to dealing with rowdy VIPs from Byzantium, not murder. Please, Captain, I'm asking you to help us. While you're pursuing your investigation, we'll make you a guest of honor at the Grand Colonial.
The future of our complex may depend on your success. I'll leave you in the constable's care. Mr. Kincannon and I must have a word.
Fine. But Rizzo's is paying for that hotel room.
I can't tell you how grateful I am for your help. And even though they may not show their gratitude, I know Administrator Ludovico and Mr. Kincannon appreciate your involvement. Mr. Kincannon could lose his spaceport if board authorities took over the investigation, and if Rizzo's is forced to cancel its unveiling, we might never recover. The Administrator oversees Rizzo's operations. Cedric runs the hotel and the spaceport. They're always at each other's throats. My life would be so much easier if they'd simply learn to work together. Me? Worn out? Perish the notion. My days are filled with catering to the oh-so-reasonable requests of Mr. Ludovico and Mr. Kincannon. What's not to like? Your words, not mine. Please don't take my lack of disagreement as anything other than fatigue. I am a content, productive, and happy member of our society. Helen was more than popular. She gave something to this colony that no product line could ever provide. Real happiness. No one has ever been as well known or as well loved. Outside of our courageous business leaders. I represent the law, Captain. But what's happening between Mr. Kincannon and the Administrator is politics. Politics are not my area of expertise. The law is simple. Politics are complicated.
Transmission terminated. Captain, we are now cleared to land at the Eridanos atmospheric complex. Eridanos is a hydrogen-helium gas giant, distinguished by a well-defined ring system. The Eridanos atmospheric complex is a system of land masses propelled through a thin layer of the upper atmosphere, where humans are potentially capable of surviving. It is possible they expect you to understand the mind of a killer. You were, after all, responsible for murdering civilians in Emerald Vale.
I can't believe Ms. Helen's gone. It feels like it's going against the laws of nature somehow. I used to watch Helen's serials. She'd fall into mortal peril every couple episodes, but she always lived in the end. Breathtaking. Have you looked over the edge of the complex yet? Just watch the clouds turning? It's like an ocean without end. Eridanos and Olympus are the two biggest planets in Halcyon. King and Queen of the Sky. Looking out to the horizon, I get this feeling that we're in the company of royalty. Eridanos is 100 times the mass of Terra 2, 800 times the volume, 10 times the diameter. We're flying through the tiniest layer of habitable atmosphere. Sometimes I can't believe how small my world used to be. My horizons were about as wide as the walls of Edgewater. Yeah. We've come a long way.
I welcome our opportunity to discover who killed Ms. Bellamy, but I fear the common serial theme of inspectors meting out justice is as flimsy as their unconvincing storylines.
Does being on the case give us temporary immunity? Think they'll let us confiscate a few stray bits?
I know we got a murder to solve, but I say we take our time. Enjoy the hotel. No one's allowed off the islands except us. The killer ain't going anywhere. Unless they jumped off the edge. And they got some way to fly. Huh. Didn't think about that.
You know, of all the places we've been, this is the closest I've felt to something that can work. This whole complex, I mean. They've got gainful employment, a wilderness reserve for fun, an enormous roof over people's heads. Maybe after the dust settles, they could shore up some holes and be an example to the rest of the colony. Here's hoping.
Hello there. Hope your atmospheric entry wasn't too troublesome. As a guest of honor, you deserve the best in comfort. Sublight Salvage and Shipping Underground, or Slug, as we like to call ourselves, is delighted to welcome you to Eridanos. I'm the Grand Colonial Head Bellhop. I'm here to grab your bags and direct you, the Inspector, to the Grand Ballroom, which was the scene of the crime. I can try. I was the one who found Helen's body in the Grand Ballroom. Corpse wasn't in the best shape. Aside from that, I don't know a whole lot. Helen was supposed to host the unveiling for Rizzo's newest product, Spectrum Brown. Until you catch the killer, the unveiling's been indefinitely postponed. Helen's death has been a shock for many. A lot of people are inconsolable. Hell, even Black Hole Birdie, Helen's beau, has wandered off. Some folks think he had something to do with the murder, but I don't believe it.
Hey, Black Hole Birdie may be a savage brute on the field of honor, but he's no killer.
We should ask if they're comping the minibar. This might take a while, if you get me.
Folks get heated when it comes to serials and their actors, I suppose. Not particularly, but I think some folks were jealous of her success, or otherwise viewed her as a threat. Reckon how she came about her fame didn't help. Why, she was a natural. People fell in love with her. She managed to wrangle up a following all on her own. She ended up about as famous and high-runged as your average VP, which rubbed a lot of Byzantines the wrong way. Actors ain't supposed to get preferential treatment. Let's see here. Oh, I already spoke briefly about the Spectrum unveiling, or lack thereof. It's still an awful shame. A lot of folks looking forward to that. You bet it was. Rizzo's rented out the ballroom in the hotel just for the launch event. Reckoned it was gonna be a real swell affair. Rizzo's ain't unveiled the product since the debut of Spectrum Ultraviolet. Invisible to the naked eye, and as it happened, prone to causing massive internal bleeding. Anyway, I think I've held you up long enough. Once you're ready, head down to the lobby. The ballroom is just behind the elevators. Meanwhile, I'll grab your bags. You're making fun, right? Your luggage, belongings, kit, wherever you keep what you ain't wearing. You're still giving me a pretty blank look. Suppose it's none of my business, but do you just wear the same set of clothes all the time? Well, reckon I can respect your candor, even if it scares me a smidge. Anyhow, I'll look for you in the Grand Ballroom later. Hope you can unravel this mystery, Inspector.
Oh, thank the law. Inspector, you don't know how relieved I am to see you. Constable Maria Keene. It's good to meet you in person, Inspector.
Dr. Goodnight. Ecstatic to make your various acquaintances and so on. Are we finished with the pleasantries? There's something I'm excited to show you. What body? Oh, that. Goodness, no. This is far more interesting than Halcyon Helen's rapidly cooling corpse.
Our coroner has developed a device which may prove useful in your investigation. Our office has instructed her to hand it over to you.
Our office has instructed her to hand it over to you. Oh, please. You make it sound as if I'm turning over stolen goods. Behold, my discrepancy amplifier. Hold it in your hands. Feel the way it hums with ontological potential. I'm so glad you asked. Allow me to explain. The discrepancy amplifier uses a deterministic model of our universe to detect the discrepancy between what should be and what actually is. Then it renders any discrepancies visible by using the power of magnification. Oh, goodness, no. I don't care for OSI doctrine. I just enjoy their math.
I'm contractually prohibited from endorsing off-brand technology, but I'll bend that rule just this once. You'll want to peer into the amplifier and examine the crime scene.
This unit has detected a discrepancy related to Halcyon Helen. Unscheduled expiration of. Begin amplification. The discrepancy amplifier has been programmed with advanced speech recognition, scientific analysis, and deterministic calculus protocols.
Oh, you'll love this. Amplifier, tell the inspector about your features.
Please do not interrupt the discrepancy amplifier. The discrepancy amplifier is programmed to take instruction from its registered or designated inspector.
How curious. I must have set its impertinence levels to flagrant.
This unit's features include an automated personality simulator. This unit has been programmed to simulate joy and satisfaction in assisting you. This footprint stands out from the normally spotless floor of the grand ballroom. Typically, the ballroom is cleaned twice daily, which means this must have been made by either Helen or her assailant or assailants. Footprint is a tailor-made 8.75, suggesting that its owner was very particular about their shoe size. It is also the exact size that Halcyon Helen typically prefers. There are traces of dirt throughout the footprint. Excellent observation, Inspector. The following compounds have been detected: purpleberry residue, nitrogen-rich fertilizer, common grass. Grass, fertilizer, and purpleberries can all be found in the purpleberry orchards located not far from the Grand Colonio. This deduction appears sound.
Good work, Inspector. I had a feeling we'd make some progress once we brought you onto the case. You'll need Administrator Ludovico to grant you access to the orchards. Contact him through the secure access terminal in your penthouse suite. Check in with the concierge. Your room should be ready by now. If it isn't, I may have to go shake someone by the collar.
The purpleberry orchards. And a footprint. Inspector, that was absolutely marvelous. Beautifully deduced. With the help of my discrepancy amplifier, of course. Ah, I was waiting for this. Yes, of course. I'm only too eager to cooperate. My apologies, Inspector. I've not yet finished my autopsy. Come back later? Oh, why, I'm flattered, Inspector. Let me think. I've worked at the Grand Colonial for about as long as it's been around. Prior to that, I lived in Byzantium, but I always felt like it was missing something. And that something turned out to be corpses. Byzantium has much in the way of luxury, but examining the dead does not rank amongst the preferred activities of the elite. Absolutely. Usually I'm just a medical practitioner, so I almost never get to deal with anything as unique, or as quiet, as a corpse. The most interesting thing I saw prior to this was the back of Mr. Woolrich's throat after he blew out his vocal cords shouting at an attendant. If I weren't here, I'd be back in my quarters, rewatching Byzantium in the spring, or working on my automatic sprat peeler. Oh, good. One of my favorite subjects. Ask away, my dear. Ask away. I didn't expect an existentialist question so early today. It's a need. Just as sprats feel they must breed, or canids feel they must brutally maul each other, I feel the need to create. Inspector, I'm sure you don't want to spend 4 hours talking back and forth about the intricacies of a science project. It works. That's the important part. Because you're the inspector. I should think that's rather obvious. I invented the discrepancy amplifier to assist me in my own medical work. When you were hired to investigate Helen's death, I realized I had my own part to play. I programmed the amplifier to assist you. I'm entrusting it to your care because I want to see my invention help a brilliant inspector solve the murder of the century. You don't miss a thing, do you, Inspector? I can see why the constable recommended hiring you. Think of the amplifier as my gift to you. May it avail you in the swift and efficient prosecution of justice. I still have the blueprint and several extra prototypes floating around, but I might recommend you try to be careful with it. Some of the amplifier's internal components are rare, shall we say, and I don't have an indefinite supply. You sure you don't want to know anything else? Oh, all right. We can change the subject.
Something I should know? Are you asking me these questions in an official capacity? I appreciate the gesture, Inspector, but I'm on duty. If you'd like to speak informally, you may visit my office during my scheduled socializing hours. Please, ask your questions. Norval, head bellhop. He was understandably distraught. I believe his feelings were genuine. He's a remarkably poor actor. Hotel security corroborates his whereabouts during the murder. I haven't included him in my list of suspects, but neither am I convinced of his innocence. I'm a little suspicious of anyone who enjoys his job as much as Norval. He's also obsessive in his appreciation of Helen's work. Obsessive passion can lead to irrational behavior. It's a fact of modern science. If there were any witnesses, none came forward. Ballroom cameras were also offline at the time of the murder. Helen was very particular about having cameras on her. Security footage would have constituted documentary filmmaking. Can't afford that. There's no sign of the murder weapon. Whatever it was that killed Helen, the killer took it with them. Frankly, I'm having trouble imagining exactly what it was that killed her. Helen was known to carry her signature weapon, a bespoke handgun known as the Needler. There was no sign of any such weapon on her body.
The Needler's real? I watched her use that thing in the gunfight at the end of Terror on Monarch.
You keep excitable company. I hope they won't complicate your investigation by touching things. Spencer Woolrich and Bertie Holcomb are officially persons of interest in this investigation. I've mostly ruled out Mr. Woolrich, leaving Bertie Holcomb as my lead suspect. Let me rephrase that. He's your lead suspect. I've been instructed to turn this case over to your capable hands, while I continue to serve as a consultant. Work is simple. People are complicated. The people involved in this murder are especially complicated. Mr. Woolrich was Halcyon Helen's professional rival. It's possible jealousy drove him to take Helen out of the picture. I apologize for the wordplay. Conversely, Mr. Bertie Holcomb was Helen's paramour. The relationship was reportedly dissolved. I can't rule out her murder as a crime of passion. Woolrich thinks of himself as a serious and distinguished actor. He was frequently cast in demeaning roles, while Helen played the charismatic heroine. He has reason to be envious. I considered the possibility that Woolrich killed Helen in order to eliminate a rival and advance his own career. But my reasoning collapsed under closer scrutiny. Woolrich owes his career to Helen's dramas. Her death likely harms his long-term prospects. I'm struggling to determine a motivation for him, so I've largely ruled him out. Mr. Holcomb was in a romantic relationship with Helen. This alone is not enough to make him a lead suspect, but he does play tossball. Black Hole Birdie currently holds the record for most non-consecutive blows to the head. His tendency toward irrational and violent behavior is well documented. Please, ask your questions. Anything else? I'm afraid I must decline. It isn't personal, Inspector. I'm just on duty right now. Talk to me later, after you've met with Administrator Ludovico. I'll make time to chat.
This is a bottle of unreleased Rizzo's product. Helen appears to have attempted to use it to spell something as she expired, but all she managed was a sticky bee. This hypothesis hypothesis is plausible, but requires additional information. Now calculating likelihood of Halcyon Helen using her final moments to endorse Rizzo's Spectrum Brown. Low to moderate likelihood.
I was wondering about that. Before we arrived, I heard something on the aether waves about Black Hole Birdie taken up at the Grand Colonial.
Correct. Bertie Black Hole Holcomb is a registered guest at the Grand Colonial Hotel. Accessing guest database B. The Grand Colonial Hotel is proud to serve the following VIPs. Bertie, Black Hole. Burbage 3001. This evidence has been recorded for later reference. Now generating pre-approved compliment. Splendid work, Inspector.
Finally checked in, I see. I hope you're fond of the penthouse. It's pretty much the best seat in the whole hotel. You shouldn't want for any amenity you might find elsewhere. Should act as a better headquarters for the investigation than any space dust-covered ship. That and you ain't got room service on a ship. You ever need anything, come find me. Even if you don't, you can still swing by. I'm always happy to chat. Oh, of course. That is, maybe not on a personal level, but I'm one of her biggest fans. Even started an association of like-minded individuals. I'd lament not having anything to meet about anymore, but the newer tribe just ain't done it for us. Still, there goes my hopes of a Terran Monarch reunion episode. Sorry, friend, but I guess you don't get it. Helen was special, had a certain quality about her, like she would really go out and fight injustice. You look at Woolrich, and no disrespect to the man, but you just don't get the same feeling. He reminds me more of a vacuum suit without nobody in it. Don't tell him I said that. Now, what can I lend a hand with? I suppose you could call it that, but that don't mean I poked around her room or nothing while she was out. That'd be a huge breach of hotel policy. Besides, knowing Helen's athletic acumen, anyone who tried probably would have been found, beaten senseless, then hurled into the hallway, followed by the contents of a garbage bin. Probably, that is, it'd probably happen, but it didn't. I'm just theorizing. Notice my battle-hardened physique, have you? Used to be in a mighty mean line of work. Been shot at 35 times. That is, I've been near people who were shot at 35 times. But to be honest, I never really enjoyed it, you know? It's one thing to tightrope walk between life and death every day, but for just a handful of bits? Nah. When this position came up, I jumped on it and made a lateral move from sublight to slug. I ain't ever looked back. Well, slug is something like an offshoot of sublight. It ain't too difficult to pivot from one part of the same company to another. Disconnects or no. That said, my departure may have been somewhat hasty. Well, you could call it a small lapse in judgment. Basically, I singled out a ship to salvage that I thought had been out for use for years. As it turns out, it belonged to a wealthy Byzantine who used it only to vacation. As it so happened, I still don't think she tried to use it, too satisfied with the luxuries of Byzantium. Still, I figured it was a good time to turn tail, in case that ever changed. Stories. Huh. Actually, I think I got a couple now that you mention it. When I was first starting out here, I got lost in the lower levels of the Colonial. Guess you not, I ran into a giant purple sprat. Of course, I'd been drinking a little that day. Well, Slug is more trustworthy for one thing, where Sublight is all about back alleys and backstabbing. Slug can be trusted not to salvage your ship when you turn your head. Please do. Sure, I'd taken to checking the ballroom every few hours prior to the unveiling. Just to make sure no sprats had snuck into the place. You understand. Found her right before I was set to head back to my room in the lower levels for my mandated 5-hour sleep period. Tell ya, thank the law for caffeinoid. Been too upset to get a wink of sleep since. And hey, now I can finally see smells. What? No! Just 'cause I found the corpse doesn't mean I made her a corpse. I was in shift all day. Besides, I loved Helen serials. Well, the old ones anyway. The newer episodes are hot junk on a warm day. Beats all hell out of me. Maybe she was, practicing for the unveiling? Sure. What's on your mind? Of course I did. I just told you I found the body. Oh, wait. You mean when she was still breathing? No, of course I didn't. Plus, it's untoward for an employee to speculate about the actions of a hotel guest. Not that I saw any hotel guests interacting with her. Honestly, you're more than a little right. I've been burning at the britches to share my theories. Day of her death, I saw Helen leave the hotel premises with the profit of profitability, and didn't see her come back. A little on the suspicious side, I think. Seemed especially strange, seeing how, as far as I was aware, the two didn't get on. Yep. Gives seminars on increasing profit margins and the like. Can't say much else, seeing how I ain't in the gossip market. Far as I can recall, Helen dismissed the lady's seminars in some kind of interview. Said her co-star used them, but she didn't. The top rungers are always ready to read between the lines of famous folks and seem to think the profit was on her way out. Woman lost a ton of bits and is set to lose more. I hope all that helped. I'd like to be as useful as I can in the investigation. I just didn't want to steer anyone the wrong way. Everyone's got theories. I don't reckon mine hold much more weight than anyone else's.
I'm sorry, sir, but while the hotel is an active crime scene, I regret to inform you that all new bookings, room upgrades, room downgrades, and in-room massages are Oh, you're the special inspector. Mr. Kincannon warned me you'd be checking in soon. Ah, yes. We are most pleased to offer you our grandest of grand accommodations, Inspector. The penthouse suite on our topmost floor is now available for you. The last guest left her belongings behind when she vacated unexpectedly, so we needed a little time to tidy the suite up for you. Simply call the elevator in the lobby, and our highly skilled operator will deliver you to your private floor with efficiency and cheer. It certainly is a marvel of modern ingenuity, luxury, and ambition. Please, allow me to answer any curiosities you might have about our building and the amenities on offer. Twice the size of the next biggest room, and kitted out with any amenity you want, as well as many that you won't. Best to enjoy it while you can, Inspector. Typically, the only people who can afford the penthouse suite have enough bits to suffocate everyone on Terra 2. Also, please inform me if Woolridge gives you a hard time about getting a better room than his. Don't tell him I said this, but everyone on staff wants to strangle him. Most certainly. All the important folks can be found in the utmost parts of the hotel. You can hardly walk 3 feet without bumping into a tossball grate or a bored exec. Though maybe don't bump into them. Could be harmful to your health. Who would be interested in a staff-only area? Most folks never ask about the sewers beneath Arizzo's plant, either. Of interest to your investigation? Well, I suppose there is that one door we're not supposed to open. But I'm sorry, Inspector, I'm not authorized to grant you access to any staff sections of the hotel. You'll have to find a way in on your own. If you're sure. My apologies, Inspector, but that would be a severe violation of guest privacy. We here at the Grand Colonial firmly believe that... All right, my supervisor just walked out of earshot. Some folks just don't understand the importance of gossip. About whom? And what would you wish to know? You know, out of everyone here, I probably knew the least about Helen. I'm not much of an Aetherwave watcher myself. And Helen always had a crowd of admirers chasing her, you see, so she rarely stopped to chat. Friendly enough, surely, but always seemed untouchable. Emphasis on seemed. Now that you mention it, she was usually calm and collected, but every so often I'd see her looking all wild-eyed and intense. It seemed as if she was determined about something. Or maybe she was just hungry. That woman ordered a lot of food. Maybe show business gives you a faster metabolism. Ah, Birdie. Is he bigger than he is dumb, or dumber than he is big? I've a bet with a friend. Not sure we'll ever get it to pay out. Birdie used to be Helen's beau, though he isn't anymore, and not just because she's dead. If I had 1,000,000 bits, I'd spend every one just to learn what caused their split. Her deal? Not making them. I'd laugh at my own comment, but everyone knows there's no bigger joke than the prophet of profitability herself. Didn't you hear Helen's interview? That woman is the definition of humbuggery. Anyone who gives her the time of day is a right fool. I mean, Spencer Woolrich has taken several of her productivity seminars, and look where it got him. Don't waste your time. If looks could kill, he'd have put her in the ground 10 times over. Man's clearly jealous of her success compared to his. See, I'd bet we're the only two people thinking about him in all of Eridanos. And I only am because you mentioned his name. If you leave woolly cow milk out, it turns to curds. Leave the curds out, they begin to get stale, then rot. Woolridge is on his way to the trash bin, and everyone knows it. Either he's in denial, or he knew Helen would be checking out soon, judging by his increasing demands for a room upgrade. That's a shame, Inspector. What if I wanted to know a little about you? A dashing gunslinger type, then. I'm sure the investigation will turn out splendidly in your hands. Or at least Mr. Kincannon seems confident enough to believe so. I'd love to, Inspector, but I don't really have the authority. Moreover, the guests were promised exclusivity. If I let you up there, I'll never hear the end of it. That's a good point. If they give me guff, I can just tell them that they're obstructing justice. That has a nice ring to it. Let me just set you up with VIP guest floor access. Done. You can now come and go as you please.
Hello there, my inordinately esteemed guest. If my hello were any more earnest, this loudspeaker would explode. What authorized floor can I bring you to? Next up, the finest seat in the house.
The imprint left inside this suitcase matches the silhouette of Halcyon Helen's iconic handgun, the Needler. The weapon was recently removed.
Helen, where did we go wrong? Oh, Lo, I'm so sorry. That didn't mean for... Helen, I love you. I love you so much.
Inspector, I understand you've visited the scene of the crime. Halcyon Helen was an important cultural icon. She will be sorely missed. Halcyon Helen was more than a character. She was a brand. Her death will now be associated with Rizzo's Spectrum Brown. You understand why that worries me. I wish I had your blithe sense of optimism. Helen's death means delays. Delays mean expenses. Expenses mean audits. Audits mean people like me lose our jobs. Back to the matter at hand. Tell me about your investigation. Your discretion is appreciated. I admit, I'm beginning to feel more confident in this arrangement. Here, I'm granting you access through the gates to the orchards. You're officially authorized to see this investigation through to the end. There is one caveat. Cedric's being rather intransigent about letting you into the spaceport. Possibly he's trying to hide something. Possibly he wants to annoy me. Possibly both. I agree with the sentiment behind your snide remark. Unfortunately, the Piraeus spaceport is Cedric's purview, not mine. You have a lead to chase. Law speed, Inspector.
Hi there, Inspector. It might be a little beyond my job description to ask, but at my heart, I'm still a bellhop. Was the suite to your liking? Good. I'm glad. Now, I'd love to bring you to a floor of your choosing. If you see Black Hole Birdie, be sure to get an autograph for me. Just joking. I've already got one.
About time you arrived. I see you haven't dressed the way I asked you to, but I suppose that was expecting too much of a non-industry lout. Expect a complaint to management. Now, unless you'd like to waste more of my time, I suggest we begin rehearsing. Ready? You've fallen right into my trap, Captain. Oh, don't bother to fight back. You cannot hope to stop me from installing philosophism as the system's reigning ideology. How does the scenery taste? Good, I trust? Wait a moment. You're not wearing a bellhop's ID, which must mean you're not Owen's understudy. That man can't even be relied upon to find his own replacement. Oh, no, this is curious indeed. Who are you, and how did you get in here? You're here to investigate me? Oh, I assure you, I'm nothing special. Just an old crook with more money than time. That was a quote from The Retiree's Revenge, in which I played an ex-thief turned decrepit old man. But, of course, I'm certain you already recognized it. Now, what shall I sign first? Your weapon? Your wallet? Or perhaps something a little more personal? Undergarment signatures have been popular of late, or so I've heard. Do you mean to say you're not a fan? Well, then how did you get in here? The only staffer cleared for guest room entry is the inspector for Bellamy's murder. Oh. Oh! Hello. Terribly sorry, Inspector. I didn't realize it was you. Understand that I am beyond willing to comply with your search for the fiend that did Bellamy in. You know, now that I look at you, you're the perfect reflection of me, back when I starred in the Marauder's Bane. The absolute picture of justice. Ask me anything at all. I might even give you a straight answer. I'm sure you're joking. Perhaps I'm not in my prime, but you've no doubt seen the name Spencer Woolrich on many a serial advertisement throughout your travels. You think? I mean, yes, of course. You have, obviously. Certainly. But one quick question before we begin, if I may. How was it that Bellamy met her end? Oh, yes, I'm sure you must be overcome with emotion. Whatever the case, I hope she didn't suffer. Bellamy has been my co-star throughout the autumn of my career. I should like to think I knew her. In fact, I cannot name a single role in the last 10 years that did not involve her in some way, unless you count the uncredited silent shopkeep on Melissa's Meteoroids. I'll ask you this. If you'd been the star of cinema for years, then suddenly found yourself scrounging for bit parts while a younger person stole the limelight, how would you feel? In short, the two of us weren't close. But that's not to say my dislike of her was so extreme that I tried to do anything drastic. Resenting Bellamy is one thing, but killing her is another completely. It's also beneath me. I was meditating, of course. That's how I get into character. Respectfully, Inspector, it is rather counterproductive to commune with others while meditating. All actors have their methods, and this has been mine ever since I met that wonderful prophet of profitability. She taught me it for my role in The Unemployed Cometh. I had to lie face down on artificially heated pavement. The director wanted our suffering to be convincing. Needless to say, being able to leave my body helped to mitigate the pain, both during the 8-hour shoot and with the second-degree burns afterwards. I owe that woman much. Yeah, actually, only since I've been at the Colonial. The Unemployed Cometh was shot on site. That makes it, a few weeks. I cannot recommend her services enough. If you haven't been to see her yet, you really should. I'll answer whatever you wish. Oh, come now, Inspector. What do you take me for? I'm an old man. I neither have the time nor the willpower to kill people for fun. Besides, I have my reputation to think of. I suppose that is enough on that grim subject.